Hi everyone, this is Susan Knowles with Stand for Truth Radio, and this is Knowles on the News. I wanted to come on and just briefly talk to you a little bit about my impressions of the GOP debate the other night that were held by Fox News. I do think that the 5 o'clock debate went so much better than the 8 o'clock debate. I felt that the candidates at 5 o'clock were really trying to take advantage of the time that they had and put on a very professional debate. And I thought that the moderators did really well in asking questions that were pertinent to someone who's running for a president, and also didn't get down to a level of personal attacks. I felt that at 8 o'clock there was a definite bias that Fox News came out gunning for Donald Trump. I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, and it's just my opinion. I know from the very get-go they knew that Donald Trump was going to be the only person that raised his hand in regards to whether or not you would stick with the Republican Party in the event you weren't, the candidate for president. And at least, with Donald Trump, the one thing about him is he tells the truth. You don't have to like it, but he's telling the truth about how he feels. Now, is Donald Trump a plant? Is he only there because he's trying to somehow split the votes, this, that? I have no idea, and I think that we will find that out. But here, as time goes on, we'll find that out. But here's what I want to say. As long as people continue to bash Donald Trump, you will continue to stir Donald Trump's base. Like it or not, whether you like Donald Trump or not, that's exactly what you're doing. You should allow him, give him enough rope to hang himself, and the rest of the candidates as well. The more they talk, the more you're going to find out who they truly are. You don't need to spend all this time bashing Donald Trump. It's only going to make people want him all the more to be the presidential candidate. Now, I say that, and I also say to those people, and I see this especially with Rick Perry supporters. Rick Perry didn't do that well the other night. He came out really at the bottom of the pack, according to a lot of people. It was almost like watching a repeat of the last time. Rick Perry may be an incredible person with an incredible ability to lead this country. At this point, I didn't see it. I'm not from Texas. I don't know everything about him. I do know that there are a lot of people from Texas who don't like him. I have an open mind about him, but so far in the debates, I have not seen anything from Rick Perry that I can say this wows me as somebody who I could elect and want to elect to lead this country. But if you feel that your candidate, whether it's Rick Perry, Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, anybody else, if they are the candidate to run this White House and run the country and get us out of the hole, our literal hole that we have been in for the past 8 years, then instead of spending all of your time bashing Donald Trump, may I suggest that you spend all of your time telling the American public why your candidate is the best candidate. When you're trying to convince somebody of why they should do something, you don't give them all the reasons why they shouldn't do something. You tell them why it's so important that this country needs your candidate. So, let's get off the Trump bashing. We're really spending way too much time in doing that. But a couple of things that I wanted to say. Everybody was so incensed about what he said about Rosie O'Donnell. Was it rude? Yes, it was rude. Everybody knows it's rude. You don't need to point that out, and you don't need to go, oh my gosh, Donald Trump, war on women. Donald Trump, war on women, really? Gosh, I think there are so many more things that you could have talked about that were legitimate war on women topics. It sounds like Democrats coming from the GOP who are talking about Donald Trump and war on women. I think we have a better argument than that. But we also have to look at the fact that Donald Trump, if you remember the Rosie O'Donnell statements against him, she called him a snake oil salesman. She talked about the fact that he should fire one of the pageant queens or whoever it was at the time because of a drug problem that she allegedly was having. And then she started bashing Donald Trump for his marriages and infidelities. Again, what does that have to do with anything? That's Donald Trump's personal problems and issues that he needs to take care of. I don't think that Rosie O'Donnell needs to be sitting and pointing that out. She has her own issues, just like everybody else. So, she's not innocent in all of this. She started it, got him, involved, and you'd have two people who obviously, are very childish in a lot of ways with their, he said, she said stuff. I could really care less about that, and I think Rosie O'Donnell sitting there trying to act like the victim is absolutely ridiculous. Was Donald Trump right in doing what he did? No, and neither was Rosie O'Donnell. Now, as for Megyn Kelly and what he allegedly said about Megyn Kelly and what it meant, whatever. Megyn Kelly is a big girl. She has big girl pants that she wears, and she can take care of herself. She is an attorney and somebody who obviously can get up in front of everyone on TV and is a real go-getter. She doesn't need people coming out and saying, "Oh, poor Megyn, what he said." Let Megyn Kelly take care of herself. She can do that. What I saw that really disappointed me, though, was how Megyn Kelly and the other two moderators just went after Donald Trump personally. And they did go after him personally in talking about those things. What I really wanted to hear is how Donald Trump was or was not going to be a good person for everybody to vote for as the candidate for the GOP. I didn't get to hear that. I wanted to hear them ask questions of, okay, Mr. Trump, you said, you're going to build a wall between the United States and Mexico, and you said that you were going to make Mexico pay for that. How did you intend to do that? What is your plan for that? Those are the things I want to hear. I want to hear from Ted Cruz. What do you think that you're going to do that some other candidate can't do? How are you going to turn this thing around? How are you going to go in there instead of just talking about repealing Obamacare? How are you going to do it? What is your step-by-step plan? Give me something like that. I'm so tired of the pettiness. It's pettiness, people, pettiness. You can call it war on women. You can call it whatever you want. You can say Donald Trump is this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. If his character is that poor, and I'm not saying it's not, but if it's that poor, let him show you through these debates that this is who he is, that he's not able to be president, that he's not able to run this country, and that all he says and comes out of his mouth are harsh things, and that's the reason you shouldn't vote for him. Whatever the case may be, let him do it. We don't need whoever the debaters are, the moderators are, we don't need them pointing that out to the American public. The American public is sick and tired of everybody else trying to tell them what they should be aware of. The American public is not stupid. They can figure it out. But what you are doing, you are pushing the American public more towards who you say that you are not against. And I say that because I would say that for any candidate that I saw the type of bias that I saw the other night. And it was bias. Plain and simple. You don't like it, perhaps. You don't want to look at it that way. But it was plain and simple. It reminded me of the Democrats who were moderators, moderating the debates with Republicans. My gosh. It was so similar to that. I don't know how you could see that. But if you can't, that's okay. It's your right not to, and it's your right to listen to other people who have their opinion, like myself, who says, I think there was bias. Now, some of the things that concern me is that, there are allegations that Fox News was a big contributor of the Clintons. If that's true, then we have people sitting here bashing Trump for the same thing. And I have an article that is from one of, liberal media, which is May 17th, where allegations about Fox News and giving to the Clintons. And it says the nonprofit arm of Fox News, then parent company, donated to the Clinton Foundation. The News Corporation Foundation, the charitable arm of Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation, which at the time was the parent company of Fox News, donated between $500,000 and $1 million to the Clinton Foundation. James R. Murdoch, the the co-chief operating officer of Fox News' current parent company, 21st Century Fox, and son of Rupert Murdoch, donated between $1 million to $5 million. I have no idea if that's true. It's in an article on the internet. Go look it up. Go look and see if there is a link between Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, whomever, and the Clintons, where it may help to look and prove why there may have been a bias. Okay? That's all I'm asking you to do. It's important, if you're going to vet people, that you know the whole truth about everyone. You know, let's quit focusing on Donald Trump so much. Let's look at the other candidates, and let's look at what, you know, might be going on that would make this sort of a biased moderator event that we saw the other night. We need to be clear about everyone. We can't just go, oh, well, they're saying that, and therefore, you know, I believe that. No, go do your own homework. Look and see what's really going on. You know, there are other candidates out there that I'm going to be looking at very seriously. One of the people that did really well the other night was Carly Fiorina. She was excellent. You know, she's from California, and so immediately, you know, even though I'm from California, I looked at her and thought, I just don't know, because after all, you know, she is California. What is she like? Well, you know, I saw a woman who was very professional, who handled things very well, who didn't really resort to the type of name calling. You know, I saw at 8 o'clock between Rand Paul and Chris Christie, which to me, gosh, it was embarrassing. I've seen that so many times. I don't want to see that. You know, if you don't like Chris Christie, if you don't like Rand Paul, and, you know, you're either one of those candidates, just state the facts and say it like it is. You don't have to, you know, look like two boys standing there playing baseball and somebody says, no, it's my time to be up. I mean, come on. We don't need that. And, you know, again, it's not anything against Rand Paul or Chris Christie. It is, let's see somebody who's professional. You know, I liked Fiorina because of the fact that, you know, she came out from humble beginnings. You know, she was a secretary, and then she became a CEO of Hewlett-Packard. You know how difficult it is to do something like this? In this day and age. I mean, it really is for a woman to, you know, go up through the ranks of the days and times that she went up through the ranks. That's very difficult. The woman had something that caused her to be able to break through that barrier and make it to the top. Now, was she perfect? I don't know. You know, I know she laid off a lot of people, and I know that she was very successful once that occurred in bringing that company back around. I know she has since, I believe, moved to Virginia, so she's no longer in California. That may be a plus for some people. Again, the things I found out is that also she's pro-life, seems to be pro-Second Amendment, and I hope to be able to perhaps, you know, have some recording on here that you can see later if I can hook that up. If not, then you can just go to YouTube and look up her opinions on Second Amendment. And she came out and talked about Obamacare and was against it after the Supreme Court had their ruling. And, of course, we're going to hear a lot of things in the news already about the fact that, oh, she said this, she said that. Again, we have to go out and look up these things ourselves. Don't believe anything that you're hearing from one source. Really check it out. People are seemingly already saying, well, she'd make a good VP. Well, you know, why is that? Because she's a female and we can't have her as president, or because she's not strong? From what I saw the other night, she was very strong. I was really surprised. Again, I was so impressed that I said, you know, if it was, I had to go vote right now after the 5 o'clock, she would get my vote. That doesn't mean I'm going to vote for her. I gave the instance of, if it happened right now, this is what I would do. I was disappointed again in the 8 o'clock because I don't feel like I got enough time to hear other people. We were so focused on, trying to go after Trump, that we really didn't get to hear more. I would have liked to have heard more from Ted Cruz, Ben Carson, because I felt that they had some important things that were said, especially in the closing statements that they gave. They were amazing. The things that Cruz said that he was going to do on his first day, to repeal Obamacare, to repeal every executive order that had ever been written by Obama. I don't know if he can do that. I would have liked to have heard more about, well, Mr. Cruz, how do you think that you're going to do that? Aren't there some complications with that if you go in and do that? I mean, are you really serious about this? What are you going to do? Ben Carson, I liked his professionalism. He didn't get into the fray of like, okay, I'm going to point my finger at you and I'm going to call you this, or I'm going to, bring up all your personal stuff, right now. I really like that, but I want to hear more from him. I want to know, yes, he's professional. Yes, he's intelligent. But can he run a country? How is he going to run the country? What is he going to do that differs from anybody else? Why should I vote for somebody who is not a career politician? Give me some examples. I know that you're this amazing surgeon, but give me some examples of why I should think that you could run this country and what you can do. And people already are talking about, oh, Surgeon General, he should be doing. Why should we all of a sudden just assume that's the right place for him? Why can't we wait until we hear more from him and what he can do? Some people already have their minds made up. Again, vet these people. Go online. Look at everything. Don't be so emotionally attached to one candidate that you're not willing to look at what may be inappropriate, wrong, whatever you want to call it, with your candidate and why your candidate isn't strong in that area. And is that enough to keep you from voting for that candidate? Or should you be looking at other candidates as well? I mean, if you're a Rick Perry person, and again, Rick Perry didn't do so well the other night, but it's really early. He could come back and he could do slam dunk every debate from now on. But are you willing to look at anybody else? If Rick Perry doesn't make it in as your first choice, are you going to stop there? Are you going to just go back to bashing Trump and hope that works and that Trump doesn't get in, even though your candidate doesn't get in, whoever that candidate is? I mean, we've got to do things differently. Sitting here and listening to the New York Times tell us, oh, great, the Fox News debates were wonderful. Come on. We're going to end up with Jeb Bush if we keep doing this. Now, I really feel that part of what Fox was doing the other night was not just getting Trump out, but was getting Jeb Bush in. And, that's just the way I feel. I'm just being honest with you about it. I think that some of the things that I did get to hear, we didn't really go into more, like with Jeb Bush. Why didn't we talk more about, gosh, you really loved Common Core. And same with Huckabee. You were so willing that to get Common Core out there that you were willing to lie to the people, and you don't have to say it like that, but you were willing to change the name of Common Core so you could get it in there. And how about some of the things that Huckabee has said about Republicans in the past? I don't care what he said about his wife, somebody down the street, male, female, otherwise. I really don't care. I'll find out about his character by watching him. But what I am concerned about is anything that he may have lied to the American public about. That's more important to me than what somebody may have said to Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, seriously. Again, was it rude? Yes. It doesn't really matter in him or her being president. That's what I want to know. And I think that's what the American people need to be asking. How are these people going to represent us in this country? How are these people going to, whoever it is, how are they going to turn things around? We have people who don't have jobs. We have people who aren't working, who want to sit back, and they've been for 8 years relying on the government to tell them, here's your paycheck, people. Now, rely on us for the next time in 2 weeks when your paycheck comes, or a month, or whatever it is. We've had people who are so dependent now upon the government. How are you going to change that? That's what I want to know. How are you going to stop what we've been doing and allow the American public to get back to the way they were? How are you going to help us in foreign policy get back what we've lost because of this president who has gone around and bashed America everywhere he could? How are we going to set limits on people who spend our tax dollars as though it was their own private stash in taking $42 million vacations during the 8 years of you've been in presidency? You know, I don't care who you are. You shouldn't be spending that kind of money from the American public to take your vacations. It's ridiculous. You know, what are you going to do as far as the defunding of Planned Parenthood? How are you going to get around these things? How are you going to not use the executive orders like this president that we just saw? What's going to make you different than this president who's written one executive order after the other? Why were you going to be any different? Well, how are you going to convince us that you're going to go to Congress and ask for things instead of writing an executive order? Those are the things that I want to know. I really want to know those type of things because those are the things that are important. I want to know, how are you going to take care of ISIS? What is your plan? You know, it's not enough to say, gosh, I'm going to go in there and do something. You don't have to give me specifics, but I want to know that you have a plan and a little bit about what that plan is. I want to know how you're going to rebuild the relationship that we've lost, basically, with Israel. And I want to know how you intend, if God forbid that this Iran deal goes through and it's signed, what are you going to do to make sure that this deal is just abolished the moment that you step into office? I want to know that you understand the ramifications of what's going on. I want to know that you understand that when somebody's sitting there going, death to America, that you're not one of these people who are going to just laugh and say, oh, that's just like the Republican Party. They feel the same thing as President Obama did in a disgraceful comment that he made about the GOP, that really all these people who are bashing Trump, why aren't you out there talking about that? Why does he get a pass? You know, I don't care if Obama wants to come out and talk about me and bash me personally, go for it. But when you come out and you talk about, you know, the Republican Party and you put them on the same level as the enemy who's sitting there going, death to America, and Americans sit back, and most Americans sit back, especially on the left, and say absolutely nothing and how disgusting that was to the American public, I've got issues with that. You know, seriously, can we stop looking at Donald Trump and what he is or isn't doing? If he doesn't have the qualifications and the character to be the president of this United States, then let him talk. Let him keep talking. Encourage him to talk. Give him the same questions that you give everybody else who apparently says that they know what to do. Give them the same questions. And if he's not capable of doing the job, it's going to become painfully obvious. But we don't need to spend our time on Megyn Kelly's, her feelings. We really don't. You know, do I go around hurting people's feelings? I try not to. I really try not to. Do I like that when people do that to me? No, I don't like it. But that happens. You know, I don't think that the American public is more interested in that than they are what is going to happen in this country today. Where are we headed? What's going to happen, you know, to our servicemen and women who are up there, you know, against ISIS? What's happening in our police force all over the world? Or all over the United States. What's happening? How are we going to resolve these issues? How are we going to resolve the corruption that we see every single day? How are we going to get the Supreme Court and the President of the United States? How do we balance their powers? Because they are seriously unbalanced at this point. We have the Supreme Court who's making laws. We have the President who's making laws. We have Congress who's sitting back and allowing it to happen. We have the will of the American people saying this is wrong, but we don't have the will of our Congress to do the right thing. We have Boehner and Mitch McConnell who say one thing and then end up doing another, who never move forward and never make anything happen. We can't even get, are you serious, Planned Parenthood. After watching the videos, we're more interested in talking about, again, Donald Trump than we are in getting Planned Parenthood defunded. I don't know about you, but I think it's time we need to stand up. Whether that's walking in front of the abortion clinics, walking in front of some legislator's office, legally, of course, maybe it's time to do that. Maybe we should not worry so much about Trump, but we should worry about the evil that is going on, that is beyond description. We need a true leader in this country. And we need somebody who's going to step up and be that person. And trust me, when that person steps up and can really show that they can lead this country, then you'll be saying, Donald Trump, who? But we need to get to that point. If we have a true leader, can you imagine if Ronald Reagan were here right now and it were Ronald Reagan and Trump? Ronald Reagan would sweep the floor with him. Nobody would be talking about Trump. Everybody would be talking about Reagan because Reagan was a true leader. So let's not worry about what Trump's doing. Let's concern ourselves with finding that true leader who's willing to step up and make a decision and show us that they can lead and that they're the right person. When you find that person, everything else is going to fall to the wayside. It really will. But unless you're willing to help people see who that person is, it's not going to happen. If you want to sit there and always just say what the negatives are and not say why your candidate is the best, then you're going to end up getting who you don't want. I mean, look at this. Hillary Clinton. Everybody thinks, oh, Hillary Clinton's out. Don't count her out. Until she's out, don't count her out. People are still liking her. I mean, and you can sit there and go, that's just amazing. How does that happen? I don't know. But I know that she was in San Diego with a fundraiser, $1,000 a plate fundraiser, and $2,500 for a meet and greet. And there were tons of people there. So there are people who still like this woman, and who knows who she's backed by. Some people claim it's George Soros. Same people that claim that's who Obama was backed by. So you can't sit and say, oh, that's never going to happen. But I encourage you, please, figure out who you really like. Vet that person yourself. Go look at the other candidates. Vet them yourselves. You can't afford to sit back and put all your money on one candidate and hope it's going to work out. Or you can't sit back and hope that by bashing somebody else, you're going to get what you want. It's not going to work. We're going to end up in the same situation that we are in today. 8 more years of this, 4 more years of this, and we don't have a country anymore. We really just don't. So don't spend your time wasting it. Spend your time where it's really worthwhile. Talk to everybody about why your candidate is the best candidate, how he or she can lead this country back to an even better country than we had before, to even better relationships with other countries and other people and other prime ministers than we've ever had before, and how we as Americans get back to the position that we were in where we were respected. Because we haven't been respected for 8 years thanks to somebody who has spent his entire 8 years in telling people how bad we are while using our money. So until then, like I said, just wanted to come on for a little while, talk to you about my thoughts on this. please watch my show or listen to my show on Monday night, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern on Stand for Truth Radio. Go to SusanKnowles.com. See you then. Have a good weekend.